In our last video, we taught you how to get your body loaded up in the correct sequence. In this next video, what we're going to teach you is how to use your trail foot, your trail leg, and your trail hip responsibly in your downswing so that you don't cause faults and so that you don't put your body in harm's way. Your trail foot sits in a position of dominance. It sits in a position where you're trying to get everything moving in the direction of the target, and if you start driving off of your trail leg and bringing your hips forward or pushing yourself out past neutral, you're gonna have a disaster on your hands. Today, I'm gonna teach you a drill that's gonna help you see and feel what it's like to use the trail foot properly in the downswing. Because we know one thing, when it comes to swinging the golf club, you have to go from a static address position to a finish position. You will see every single playing professional in the position that I'm in right now. That's a position that a lot of you struggle to get to, but that's a position that happens as a result of how we're creating our movement early on in the golf swing. So before I teach you this drill, you have to do me a big favor. You have to head down below and subscribe to the channel and turn on your bell notifications. And if you like this drill, then hit the thumbs up button for me. It's good for my psyche and it helps us continue to spread our message out here at MyGolfDNA. If you and I were gonna go run the 100-meter dash against one another, and we were set up in those blocks, and we were getting ready to explode out of those blocks, where would we have our weight? Well, we'd have it up in the balls of our feet, right? Why? So we can push up out of the gates. But in the golf swing, that's not gonna do us a whole lot of good. When we load our golf swing up, our pressure is going underneath our ankle joint. And what we're gonna be doing is instead of trying to get that pressure from our ankle joint to our toes, is we're gonna allow our right foot to work dynamically to help start the processes of getting the knee to move perfectly, then to get the hip to move perfectly. This is kind of like your starter for your engine of your car. But I want to show you a little bit more about the knee and the foot action in the lab first before I start teaching you how to do this. I want you to look at Adam's knee, and I'm going to draw a line in front of it at address. And I want you to look at the knee the way that it moves away from this line as he starts his takeaway in his backswing. And then what you're going to see is in transition, the right knee is going to come back to this line. It's not going to move through it. You will see a lot of players with their knee moving through that line in transition, but what you'll also see is that most of the time, that knee does not go forward through the point of release. It gets pulled back away from it as the lead side of the body continues to work to open up. Now, in this case, I want you to also look at his trail foot. If you look closely at his trail foot, he flattens it off as he turns his body into his trail side. And then as he starts to move the pressure from that trail ankle and starts to get the movement onto his lead side, what you're gonna notice is that the trail foot starts to peak up on the outside. And then as he gets to impact, that heel starts to come up off the ground. And as it starts to move through impact, it's a little bit further off. And then it kind of slows down a little bit, and then he pivots up onto the toe into a finish position. That's what you're about to learn here today. So we're back out here on the range, and I want to have a little talk with you about the reference point that I have set up here. So I've got a pool noodle on a steak skewer here that I've cut in half, and I'm going to be having that positioned so that it would be just in front of my trail kneecap, and I've got it about a club head width inside of my trail foot. Now, what we're going to start off by doing here is we're going to be working to shift and load into about a 9 o'clock position. So my lead arm is going to be about parallel to the ground. And what I want to be able to do here is I want to start getting you comfortable with the horizontal movement that's going to be created from that movement of the ankle first. And we're going to be moving way too much, but I want you to start to feel this first before we start adding in the component of what the trail knee is going to be doing. Most of the focus in the drill today is going to be on the foot and the knee. And you're going to see how much easier it is to move your body just by focusing in on those two key areas. So what I want you to do is I want you to grab a golf club, and you don't have to have this set up at home the way that I do, okay? But you can have like an imaginary line, or you can come up with your own kind of setup here. And I want you just to go ahead and turn your body back to a 9 o'clock position. Okay, now what I want you to do is I want you to make sure that your weight, when it's underneath your ankle, you're going to try to move all of that weight over to your lead foot, which is going to look like a slide. Why? Well, because it is. This is a lot of horizontal movement that I'm creating. And if you notice what my trail knee just did, is my whole body and my knee started to move so that it's in line with this pool noodle now. That horizontal movement is not going to be acting alone. You want to remember that the golf swing is a very dynamic movement. There's also some vertical forces and there's rotational forces. So to enhance this movement, what you can actually start to do now is you can start to activate the vertical movement. So what I would do is now start to feel, as you start to roll off on that lead side, or roll off on the trail side to the lead side is you want to feel like you're creating some downward movement into your lead foot. So you can kind of see like I'm almost doing a one-legged lunge. So I'm using my trail ankle to roll inward, and I'm feeling a little downward pressure onto my lead side. So get comfortable with that first. Okay, so just start training this independently. You can put both hands on the club. Kind of feels like you're kind of pumping the quads a little bit. You might feel some glute activation. And now we're gonna make the knee action start to help you get the hips rotating properly so that you stop sliding too far. Okay, so now we're about to kind of finish this drill off, but I want you to understand that this is a drill just to create the correct awareness of the movement. And this reference point that I have on the ground is not something that you're going to be able to set up easily by any means. In fact, what I would probably do is I would use some sort of analysis tool like V1 or OnForm, and I would go ahead and take your setup and just draw a line straight down the front of your knee and use that as a reference when you're starting to look back at things. So now what we're gonna do here is we're gonna allow the hips to start to rotate more dynamically, and we're gonna do it by focusing on the footwork and now letting the knee come back up to the line. We want the knee to come back to the line. It can touch it, but we don't want it to try to break through it. Imagine this line is like a barbed wire fence or an electric fence. And if you start to go through it, it's gonna zap you. So you wanna allow the knee to have some movement back to it as you're starting to roll to the inside portion of the ankle and create that downward pressure. And once that knee comes back to the line, okay, you can actually start to notice, I'll get it in the proper setup here, is that my trail foot is kind of peeking up off the ground like you saw of Adam. And then as I release the club, my hands and arms start to pass in front. Now I'm in a position where I can just rotate up onto my toe into a finish position. I'm gonna start moving away from the line now, start making it a little bit more. Okay, feels exactly the same way. Okay, now that I can feel that and I'm landing in that finish position, I know that I haven't caused that catastrophic fault that so many of you battle with, early extension. Early extension is like a $6 billion industry in the golf instruction world. Why? Because so many of you battle with it. And most of you battle with it because of what your right foot and your right leg are doing. This drill may seem a little bit wacky, but get connected to what I just taught you. Get your foot, get your weight underneath that ankle joint. Start to use it to help move the body weight to your lead side. Get a little downward pressure, start getting the right knee to move back to the line, and start pivoting up onto the toe into finish. And you're gonna find yourself a whole lot happier when it's all said and done, because you're gonna have a golf swing that helps you transfer power, but you're gonna have a golf swing that also keeps you safe over the long haul.